Hey Stampers, welcome to another week of Watch It Weekly Wednesday. I'm Beth, part of the Stamping Gel Creative team, and I have a technique that I want to show you today that we discovered this last week. This technique is so fun, and I used our in colors, the new in colors for this annual catalog, but you could use any colors and come up with some beautiful, beautiful things. So first, let me show you the technique, and then I'm going to show you some projects I made using the technique. I'm going to start with just a piece of basic white cardstock. This is cut to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So it's going to be a card front for me. And I am going to go crazy with some of the in colors. I love the Sweet Sorbet Parakeet Party. Well, and I mix some of the blues with those too on some of my samples. But it makes such different colors when they're all mixed together. So let me show you kind of how I did it. You're going to need a blending brush. Now this one is really colored, but it's not pulling any color. You just want to make sure you have no color to start with. Oops. And then you're going to take, I started with my lightest colors first because then I know where to add in the darker. So I'm going to start with Parakeet Party. And I'm going to pull some color. And when I do blending brushes, I like to start off and roll in. I'm just going to add some color around my cardstock. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it. Just kind of all over. This technique is really fun because it's very creative and artsy. So if you like doing things like that, this will be right up your alley. I'm going to pull in Tahitian Tide. I'm going to make sure that I get most of my Parakeet Party off, but where it's a lighter color, it's not going to ruin the stamp pad or the color. Pull some of that, and I'm just going to add it. Make a little watercolor type look here. Really, this tie-dye look is so popular right now. You'll see it in fashion, all around, this tie-dye. And these bright colors are so fun for summer. So I'll pull that one back out. I'm going to add some Sweet Sorbet. So same thing, grab some of the ink, and I'm going to roll it in. Now the colors kind of mix together, do different things. You get different variations of that same shade. It's really fun. I think I'm going to add a little bit more blue. So I'm going to use Orchid Oasis. It's a little bit more of a purpley blue. I'm going to just add some on the corners and see what that does. Okay, so I have this little mishmash of colors here on my cardstock. Now I'm going to take and use a Stampin' Pierce mat. I really like to use this when I'm working with a photopolymer stamp set. And with this technique, it's great if you can find a stamp set that has a bold image to it. I chose to use the Big Hooray stamp set today for this. I really love how these have a bold image. So when I emboss them, they're going to pull a lot of that color. You're going to see it through. So let me show you. I'm going to use the Big Hooray. And then it's got this cute little kind of confetti stamp too. I'm going to use that one. So I'm going to first take my sheet. I'm going to put it on my Stampin' Pierce mat. Since this is a photopolymer stamp set, I want to get a really solid image. And to use the Stampin' Pierce mat gives you a little bit of give. So that's why I have that there. I'm going to use my embossing buddy. And what this does is cuts down static on the paper by putting a little bit of powder down on there so that I'm going to get a really clean embossed image. Just rub that all over my paper. Then I'm going to pull in my Versamark. And I'm going to put down my sentiment. I'm going to use my Hooray first so that I can center everything after that. Now Versamark is just a watermark stamp pad. It's a pigment ink, so it's a little bit of a thicker ink. It's not water-based. And it's going to just leave like a clear image here on my cardstock. So I'm going to stamp that down. It's kind of sticky. But if you can kind of see where you put it, that's helpful. So adjust with your light and see, I'm going to ink up my big. And I'm going to fit it right in the crook of that Hooray. Just like that. And then I'm going to quickly add some of these little confettis all around as well. Now what I'm essentially going to do is emboss this in clear embossing powder. And then I'm going to do another really fun little thing to make it stand out. If you have ever done like scratch art, I think is what it's called, this kind of emulates that. Okay, so I'm done with my Versamark. I'm going to pull in my embossing powder, and this is just clear emboss powder. Pour it all over the top of my card front. Get good coverage since I stamped all over it. I'll try to get that powder off as much as I can in the places that I don't want it. I want it only to stick to where I had stamped my sentiment and those little confettis. I'm going to snap off as much as I can here, and then I'm going to emboss. So I have a heat tool. This is going to activate the embossing powder. Okay, once you get it all embossed, you'll just, I hope you can see that. It's just clear, so you really can't see it. So for this next part of the technique, you need a black stamp pad. I'm using a Memento Tuxedo Black, and you need a blending brush. You could use the same one you used previously, but the black gets so dark, and Stampin' Up sells them in a package of 3. So if you have a Stampin' Up package, you should have an extra one. I just kept it separate because it was just easier, because the black is very black, and I didn't want it to ruin my project previously if I was using a lighter color. So same idea, okay? We're gonna take our cardstock that we've worked on, and I'm gonna cover it completely in black. So stay with me, okay? Because I know it's kind of crazy. We're gonna start at the edges. We want this to still be a pretty covered piece, but I'm gonna start at the edges because I don't want big blotches of sponge in the middle of my cardstock. So I'm gonna go, it's gonna take a bit of ink, and you're gonna start to notice that the ink does not absorb on the embossed image. This is called emboss resist is the technique. We've done this in multiple ways, but this cute little covering it all with black, I know, but it makes such a cool stark contrast when you use the bright colors behind it, and it's gonna just turn out really, really neat. So it takes a minute, it takes lots of ink. Just keep going. Go all the way around, make sure you've got good coverage. Now you'll notice I'm back to the start, but some of this has absorbed a bit. So I'm gonna go over it one more time. I won't have to use as much ink, but I just want a really good black coverage here. Okay, so I've got that all covered. You're going to get very inky. That's just part of the fun of stamping. Take a tissue. I like to use just a Kleenex. You could use a paper towel too. And you're just going to go over your embossing and wipe it off. You don't want that black ink sitting on top of the embossed image. We want those clean so you can see those bright colors through it. And that's kind of the idea. Isn't that so fun? Every project is going to look different because you're going to use different colors. The colors are going to blend together, and you don't know what it's going to look like until the end when you see the colors come through. There is so much possibility with this technique. I can't wait to see what you guys do. But let me show you some projects that I made using this technique in this stamp set. So here's the card that I made using this same idea with the big hooray. I added some parakeet party and some sweet sorbet right behind it, and just added some of these cute little embellishments that are from those Newton colors as well. So fun, and such a fun impact. Here's another one, Hey There. I thought this one was really cute too. I just only used 2 colors on this one. I used the parakeet party and I used the orchid oasis. So it's a little simpler. So for this one, it kind of surprised me. After I did it, I realized there was a lot of purple here where the colors had mixed, and it ended up being close to Highland Heather. So that's the color that I backed it in along with Pear Pizzazz, which I wasn't planning on, but that's just kind of what it turned into, and I thought that turned out really fun. And this final one was kind of that same way with rich raspberry. I wasn't planning on that, but these blues all together, and then they kind of mixed into this deep purple color. It was so pretty. Thanks you guys so much for watching this week. I love this technique, and I literally am so excited to see what you do with it. Check out our blog post for some tips and tricks using this technique. You can find that at stampingjill.com. And if you're interested in any of the products, they are linked below in the video notes. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for another Watch It Weekly.